This is episode 19 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. The Browns and Ravens play tomorrow night. We're recording this on Sunday night just because we're actually going to be doing a live stream reactions video tomorrow night, so we won't really have time to record the thing. So we're going to be talking pretty much mainly just about the Bengals game, and yeah, it was not good. It was not good. The Bengals came out and Andy Dalton got his revenge game, and we'll talk about how much of a revenge game it really was. But Steelers are playing right now, and if there's one thing that we know about them, it's that the Steelers still suck.
The Steelers still suck. Let's go, Bills.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
All right, so let's talk about these Bengals. But before we do that, why don't you tell me what you're drinking today, Thomas?
Ooh, well, one, I'm eating Chipotle. I'm sorry about that. But also today, I'm drinking 12 Dogs for Christmas. That's right. Cleveland owned 12 Dogs for Christmas. Nothing like a good old recipe that they stole from Great Lakes. Good job, 12 Dogs. And I got a whole 6-pack of this. So I'm about to have me a nice little drinking party today. Oh, let me turn on this TV. This TV's way too loud.
Definitely, I can't hear it at all. But yeah, anyway, definitely a good time of the year to be drinking Christmas beer, I suppose. I am not drinking Christmas beer.
It's so good.
I'm drinking French beer. This is new. I actually discovered apparently Jungle Jim's does in fact have a like a create your own 6-pack kind of thing. So that was one thing I was doing when I lived in Coleraine, and there was a Kroger up the street that did that, and I thought I lost that when I moved out here to Fairfield. But Jungle Jim's does have it. So I got my variety 6-pack today, and it's called it's this. It's not really all that interesting. It's called Kronenborg. I'm not even entirely sure what it is. I just know it's beer. I don't know if it's like it's a pilsner or it's an ale or.
What is Kronenborg?
Tastes like a pilsner. Might not be, but it tastes like a pilsner. But anyway, let's talk about what actually happened in this game. I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so I have one thing to say, and I've been defending. Last couple of weeks, I haven't been defending Zach Taylor so much, but like throughout most of his career, I've been a real big Zach Taylor defender because I really feel like I feel like he's a good coach. He's got a really good offensive mind. I feel like he's got a lot of potential. But look, I'm still not saying that we should fire Zach Taylor because I still think that they're building something, and you got to at least see what's going to happen. And I don't think you're going to see that after 2 years. I mean, even Tom Landry started like 4-20-1, I think. So it's not unprecedented for somebody to get off to a terrible start and then end up being a pretty good head coach. It's not terribly common, but I still think we need to see what Zach Taylor can do next year with another year to put like talent on the team and see what we can do with that. Hopefully with a full year with Joe Burrow. But this was absolutely not his finest hour. And my biggest problem right now, the thing that I'm really struggling to see how he's going to possibly overcome is the fact that this team has absolutely no ability to handle adversity. It's just like, every single time something bad happens, the whole team just completely falls apart, and you have no thought process that, this team is going to be able to come back. There's nothing in your brain saying, oh, yeah, this team can, maybe fight back and do something good against the Dallas Cowboys team that, quite frankly, did not play very well today. I mean, their leading rusher was Ezekiel Elliott, and he only averaged 4 yards per carry. Tony Pollard only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Andy Dalton didn't even pass 200 yards passing today. The Cowboys did not play well today, but they still beat us 30-7. And you know why? Because all 3 of our first 3 drives, the Bengals fumbled. like one of which the Bengals were one of which I believe the Bengals were doing pretty well on. We actually got into Dallas's red zone, and then Travion Williams fumbled the ball, and Alden Smith returned it 78 yards for a fumble recovery touchdown. And that was only the middle of it. That was the second one. And we were already down 10-0 after, 2 offensive drives in the game. The Cowboys didn't even have the Cowboys had one drive and they got a field goal. And our defense was actually playing against them pretty well. But 2 offensive drives in the game, we're down 10-0 because of 2 fumbles. That field goal they got at the beginning of the game was partially due to Giovanni Bernard fumbling early in the drive. And then the third drive, friggin' Alex Erickson fumbles. Brandon Allen had a pretty good game today, by the way, Thomas. Your boy, Brandon Allen.
He did. He had a great game. Trust me, I noticed.
He looked like he was going to potentially lead this Bengals team to a victory. The problem is we kept fumbling the damn ball. By the time we stopped fumbling, it was 17-0.
Yeah, trust me, I know all of that.
If you follow me logically, follow me to the extreme extent of this. If we don't make any of those fumbles, then there is a very strong possibility that you take 10 points off of Dallas's final score and you add maybe 14, maybe 17 points to the Bengals' final score. So what you end up with is somewhere between 21 and 27 points for the Bengals at the end of the game and 20 points for the Cowboys. Without those fumbles at the beginning of the game, this Bengals team played well enough to win.
Yeah.
It's been the same story of the season all year. And the only reason we've had a chance when we get down this year is when Joe Burrow plays well. But outside of that, this Bengals team just crumbles and collapses whenever any adversity strikes them. And at the end of the day, I can't think of anybody else to point the finger at and say, this is your fault, than the coaching staff, because it is the coaching staff's job to get this team mentally prepared to face things like this, because stuff like this is going to happen. It doesn't matter if, like what your game plan is, at some point during the year, even the undefeated Miami Dolphins in 1972, they faced adversity. There were games where it wasn't 100% sure that they were going to win. There were times when, you were like, oh, is this going to, it's going to be whatever, the 2007 New England Patriots, there were times when you thought, look at the Steelers this year. There's been so many times that you thought that, oh, this is the week when they finally get a loss, and they finally did against Washington last week. But at the end of the day, they were 11-0 because when adversity struck, they kept doing what they were doing, and they kept managing to find a way to not let themselves lose control of a game. And that is what the Bengals are just completely awful at right now. And as much as I do think that we kind of need to give Zach Taylor, a big part of me is like, we need to give Zach Taylor another year just to see what happens, because what are you really going to do by firing him? What this team isn't going to get any better next year by firing him. So So what? But at the same time, how can you justify this team having absolutely no ability to overcome adversity when it happens? How do you justify? Especially without Joe Burrow, it's just kind of like, it seems like whenever the other team does anything good, that's the end of the game. You might as well not pay any more attention, because the Bengals didn't have every single thing go absolutely perfectly in their favor, so there's no way that we're going to get a win. That's what just infuriates me the most about this team, is the fact that they are good enough to win a lot of these games, but they don't, because they are so far mentally gone that I don't know. I'm sitting here ranting, and I'm like a couch fan who thinks I know everything about the team, and I'm sure football players in the NFL are going to look at me and be like, "You don't know what it's like," and Zach Taylor probably have 10 million things to say to me. But at the same time, all I'm seeing is just game after week after week after week, game after game after game after game. And these guys just constantly, whenever anything bad happens, that's the end of it. And there's no fight left in them. Okay, let me rephrase that. There's plenty of fight left in them, but it doesn't really change the outcome. They play hard and they just can't ever overcome anything negative to happen to them. It would basically take every single factor going their way to win a single game without Joe Burrow this year. And the only reason we won with Joe Burrow is because Joe Burrow knows how to keep everybody's head straight.
Yeah, first of all, those fumbles, I am like perplexed by that game. I have so many mixed feelings because I found myself rooting for the Bengals that game because obviously I want to see Brandon Allen do his thing, and Brandon Allen looked really good today. Wait, hold on, I had stats right here. I had stats just pulled up, I just lost them. But anyway, but one thing I noticed in the game was Brandon Allen. He was actually driving the Bengals downfield, and just mistakes were just happening, and it would just be like little things like those fumbles and like that first one where he returned it for that first one where y'all drove the ball down to like the 10-yard line or 20-yard line. It looked like y'all was going to score or at the very least get a field goal, and they returned it for 80 yards for a fumble return for a touchdown. And I was just like, oh man, that sucks. And then y'all come back and drive it down again, and y'all fumble again. I'm like, oh my God. Right. And then even with that, but the other thing that got me is how many quarterbacks are y'all going to injure on this Cincinnati Bengals team? Because Brandon Allen was his butt kick, man. He was, shouts to him, man. He gave a good effort today. I hope he's not hurt badly. Let me make sure he's not. I'm gonna look up and make sure he's not hurt badly.
He's not permanently hurt now. He'll be back.
Was it just a leg injury?
It's something I'm not sure what it was, but he strained something and he was able to come back and play. But you see, the biggest thing with Brandon Allen is he was playing well enough that you could have seen him having like a 300-yard game with
I know he was playing so good, even on
right,
one leg,
and even
that little fader pass.
Yeah, even when he was hurt, you could tell that he was still giving it everything he had. And you could tell, I mean, he was still playing fairly well. I mean, a lot of his passes were off target because he couldn't really plant his bad leg. And you lose a lot of power doing that. And he had a lot of overthrows and a lot of really poorly placed.
Oh, he threw that one pass. He also had that one pass he threw on one leg. That pass was gangster. He was on one leg. It was that first down. He threw that right in the bucket.
Right.
So I mean,
and it's even with the leg injury, he was playing respectively. He was playing pretty well. I think the biggest winner of this game, the person who gets the biggest moral victory of this game, I think, is Brandon Allen, because Brandon Allen to me proved that he has what it takes to be this team's backup quarterback going forward. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL by any means, but I think the Bengals should hold on to him as long as they can to be their backup quarterback, because, oh boy, because Brandon Allen was hurting there for a little while, they tried to put Ryan Finley in relief, and it was still just as bad as ever. He is just he might be the worst quarterback I have ever seen don a Bengals jersey, and that is saying something.
Look, if Brandon Allen plays, if Brandon Allen plays in 2 weeks against the Steelers, I might come down to Cincinnati to go to that game.
You know what? If we get a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers behind Brandon Allen,
night,
then I will go buy a Brandon Allen jersey.
Oh boy!
I will buy a Brandon Allen jersey and proclaim him as the savior of the Bengals. I still want him to be the backup quarterback, but we'll have two saviors playing quarterback.
You want him to be as great of a black backup as I would call him black up. We need a good black up.
He's definitely not black. He's by no means black.
I'm sorry. I'm on Twitter while I talk to you. Yo, no, you really, if Brandon Allen, you want Brandon Allen to really hold down the fort, because you got you don't know how long Joe Burrow is going to be out, and Brandon Allen could at least be a respectable quarterback. a very respectable quarterback who can move the offense, where you can say, "Hey, we got to win games with this guy if we build up our defense and stuff." And
he's by far and away the best backup quarterback we've had since AJ McCarron, bar none.
Yeah, and it gives you time, and then that'll give you time to let Joe Burrow take his time to get back from the injury, especially if it's supposed to take longer than next offseason. If it takes a week or two, you can say, "Hey, take your time,
right?
Get as healthy as possible. We have a good quarterback who's keeping the fort down, so when you come back, you can pick up from where you left off. But we don't want to put too much pressure on you to come back too early, because that's also should be a fear, is maybe having Joe Burrow come back too early, because we do not want Joe Burrow to come back too early, because one season ain't worth his whole career. Think about RG3. RG3 came back too early twice. He's never been the same player again. Yeah. So like I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush Joe Burrow back. I just don't want to rush it. He had that injury mid-season.
I don't want to rush Joe Burrow back either, but at the same time, like, Joe Burrow's going to work his ass off this offseason. He's already working his ass off. You hear some of the stories coming out, like there was something about, like, he was talking to his rehab instructor, and he was like, is it okay if I flex my leg in this way or something like that? And I think it was CJ Uzama was talking about rehabbing with Joe Burrow, and he was mentioning how Joe asked the rehab instructor, is it okay if I flex my leg this way, or is it going to screw something up? And the instructor was like, well, yeah, but doesn't that hurt? And Joe was like, oh, I mean, not really enough to, like, change what I'm doing here. And it's like, this is the guy, like, I have no doubt in my mind that Joe Burrow could, I'm not saying he will, but I have no doubt in my mind that Joe Burrow could come back and be 100% ready, 100% healthy, 100% everything by week 1 of the season. Now, I think the preseason, I think he might even participate in training camp. I think you try to play Brandon Allen as much as you can in the preseason, just because why the hell would you risk Joe Burrow for that? But I think Joe Burrow has the potential of coming back and being totally, completely ready. And this isn't like a, trying to throw him out too early kind of thing. He's ready, potentially, to go out week 1. I have no doubt that is totally within his capabilities. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's quite possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, if we do have to wait, I agree with what you're saying. If we do have to wait, if he isn't quite ready to come back week 1, I am not afraid of putting Brandon Allen out there. And hopefully our team has put together some better pieces and stuff, and maybe we can win a game or two. Maybe we can have a decent number of wins available if Joe Burrow has to sit out at the beginning of the season, and then he can come in and be the fucking magic man.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you that is something that should be considered if necessary. But at the same time, I think if it's not necessarily, I don't think that they should be overly cautious, because all that's going to do is piss Joe off. He's going to want to go in. If he's ready, if he's healthy, he's going to be pretty mad if they don't let him go back in, if he's ready.
Yeah. I agree with you. I completely agree with you.
So, one thing I want to go ahead and move on to. By the way, we're not really going to talk too much about the Browns game here. I'm sure y'all could probably figure that out, because it hasn't happened yet. We're recording this Sunday night. Browns don't play until tomorrow night. We don't really have anything to say about the Browns, because we already said it all on the last podcast. We already previewed it. Just as a reminder, this is a very important game for both teams. The Browns could clinch a playoff appearance with a win, and with the Ravens, if they don't win, it's going to be very hard for them to. It's going to be very hard for them to end up in the playoff race. So or to end up in the playoffs. I mean, they could still make it, but it'd be pretty difficult.
It's going to be a good game. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this football game and trying to talk to you at the same time. So, like, I think that man, if the Ravens lose this game, it's going to mean a lot of stuff for. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. The questions that surrounded Lamar Jackson are going to get louder. This Ravens team. I was just talking to somebody at work earlier today. It was like, oh yeah, we had a lead on the Ravens. We're going to beat them. And like, as cocky as that sound, it's true. Like, what are they like in the last 2 years?
They can't come back.
Yeah, like there's like they have like a crazy bad record when they're losing, like after like a certain quarter, or when they're losing by a certain amount. Like I think they haven't won a game in the last 2 years when they're losing by, or I can't remember what the exact stat is, but it's something crazy like that.
It's actually funny. I was in a AFC North trash talking group on Facebook earlier today. Somebody posted something about like, oh, well, everybody should stop freaking out because don't forget Peyton Manning didn't win a playoff game for his first however many years. And I saw that post and I thought to myself, wow, that sure sounds a lot like something Bengals fans posted in 2012, 13 when Andy Dalton wasn't winning playoff games. Is that really what you want to compare your quarterback to, Ravens fans? You really want Andy Dalton? Is that what you're going for? You want Andy Dalton. He's fine. Y'all can win with Andy Dalton, and Lamar Jackson is more potent than Andy Dalton because at least he can run. But it's like, is that really what you were looking forward to with Lamar Jackson, the MVP? And I mean, don't forget, Andy Dalton was in the MVP discussion in 2015 before he got hurt.
What's the name of the AFC North trash talking group? Because I want to join that because that sounds fun.
It's called AFC North Conflict, I believe.
There's here go one AFC North War Room. That's the one that looks like a lot of fun. Only 18 and older.
Yeah.
There's also AFC North Biggest Bully Trash Talk. Is that the one you're in? Or is it AFC?
No, it's called AFC North Conflict.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see it. Oh, here it goes. Okay, yeah, it's the biggest one too. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm not super active in that group, but I do talk from time to time, and that one I couldn't get past that one. I'm just like, you guys really want to be saying the exact same stuff about your new quarterback who's supposed to be so great? That sounds exactly like what we were saying about Andy Dalton. Like, that's not good, guys. It's not a good comparison to make.
I forget. By the way, I want to say that I'm so grateful that we get to be in such a great division. Like this division is just so much fun. This is a fun division. This is gonna be a fun division for the next 5 years, at least, unless Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield fall off a cliff or something like that. But 3 Heisman winners in the same division, who are all like their franchise quarterbacks. Like, man, how fun is that going to be? How fun is this going to be in a division like this for next? Man, I'm really excited for this division.
So
way better than the NFC East.
Yeah, I think I think we spent longer on the Ravens and Browns than we really probably needed to, just because they haven't done anything new yet. So, by the way, guys, we will be live streaming. We will be live streaming. We can't live stream the game, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there's just too many conflicts going on there. But we will be doing a live stream on YouTube of our reactions to the game after the Ravens and Browns play. So
send comments, send messages, comments, whatever. Get interactive with.
Yep. Come hang out with us. Like I said, we'll be live. Yeah, come watch it. And also, for what it's worth, there's a good possibility that this episode is going to come out after that live stream. So this all might be irrelevant information anyway. But anyway, like I said, I think we spent a little bit too much time on a game that we already talked about on the last podcast that hasn't happened yet. I want to talk about my underrated player of the week for the Bengals. And it is one of my favorite Bengals players of all time. For reasons that have nothing to do with how actually good he is, but it is
Pittsburgh. Sorry.
What? What happened?
The Bills just got a touchdown.
Oh, good. Yeah, fuck the Steelers. But no, the my underrated player of the week. It's a fumble recovery. Oh, nice. The strip sack. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, the Bills are killing them. Exactly what we said, really. This Steelers team has been the fakest was the fakest undefeated team I've ever seen in my entire life. They were playing terrible competition all year, and they got off to an 11-0 start because of just sheer luck. I mean, the one good team they beat was the one like playoff team they beat was the Tennessee Titans, and that was only because Steven Gostkowski missed a field goal at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, had that not happened, I think he missed another field goal in that game too. Had he made both of those field goals, then the Steelers would have lost. And now they're playing the Bills, and they're seemingly getting their butts kicked. I don't know. We'll talk about that game here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
like I said, my underrated player of the week for the Bengals is I could say Brandon Allen, because I don't feel like Brandon Allen is going to get enough credit for the way he played today, because the Bengals lost, and the losing quarterback never gets any praise. Which actually brings me to a point I wanted to talk about with Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott. People talk about this being a revenge game for Andy Dalton, and it was the perfect revenge game for Andy Dalton. And you know why? It wasn't because Andy Dalton came out and balled out. It's because Andy Dalton came out and played extremely average and non-interesting and managed to get a win due to his team kind of playing okay around him and the opposing team making a ton of mistakes, which is the same way he always used to win in Cincinnati. So it was like it was like beating the Bengals the same way that he always used to beat other teams for the Bengals. So in a way, that kind of was a great revenge game. But like as far as like performance goes, Andy Dalton didn't do that great. But anyway,
sorry.
What? Oh no, you go ahead.
I have underrated player of the week for the Bengals.
Okay, well, you tell me in a second, but I'll just say it's not going to be Brandon Allen, because I feel like I feel like the quarterback's going to get I feel like because of his playing through the injury and stuff like that, he's going to get a lot of people are going to be talking about how impressive he played. So, but at the same time, because he didn't perform because he didn't like go off the rails and they lost really badly, there's a good chance that he might be underrated. But my real underrated player of the week is, like I said before, one of my favorite Bengals players of all time, regardless of the fact that he really isn't actually any good for the most part. But it is the great Estonian man, Margus Hunt. He was a guy we drafted in the second round way back in like 2013, and he was this guy who only played like 1 year of college football because he's from Estonia, and he didn't really even make it to the NFL, or he didn't make it to college football until like his last year of eligibility or something like that. Or no, well, I guess he would have more eligibility than that, but basically, he was not experienced at playing football when we drafted him, but he was such an athletic freak, and he was really good at blocking field goals. And that's the main reason we drafted him. And a big reason why he's one of my favorite players is A, because he's got this fascinating backstory, and B, because he was actually my first player.
Oh, touchdown!
Did the Bills
Suck
get
a dick, Steelers. I'm sorry, guys.
Again?
I got a touchdown.
Again?
Yeah.
Nice.
Bill got a touchdown. Bill Mafia, baby.
Absolutely, 100%. Please interrupt me if anything bad happens to the Steelers. That's totally okay to interrupt.
4 play, 57 yards. Brandon Allen.
But anyway, Brandon Allen.
Sorry, Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was about to say that's different Allen.
Wrong Allen.
But anyway, about Margus Hunt. He was my first because as I've mentioned before on this podcast, I used to be a beat writer for Cincy Jungle. I used to I wasn't super like big on the Bengals beat, but I was the breaking news writer, and I was going to a lot of events for them and trying to cover those events and get interviews from players. And the reason I've got a Giovanni Bernard jersey on my wall is because he was my favorite interview I ever did. I had a lot of fun interviewing him, and it was it was awesome. But Margus Hunt was
pretty
first. Do what?
That sounds pretty gangster.
Oh yeah, Margus Hunt was my first interview though. I went to an event called the Taste of the NFL, which is basically like this charity event where they have a bunch of food out, and you have to buy an expensive ticket to go to it. But because I was part of the press, I got a free ticket. And I basically went around interviewing various Bengals players. AJ Green and Domata Peko both blew me off, and I wasn't terribly thrilled about that. But fair enough. They were probably busy. Will Clark and Margus Hunt both, and Carlos Dunlap actually. All three of those guys gave me interviews, and Margus was the first one who I actually managed to do. Also, I talked to Andy Dalton. I think I came off as kind of a weird ass fanboy who got starstruck when I saw Andy Dalton because that's the fucking starting quarterback of the team. But everybody else I did pretty well with. And Marcus Hunt was my first interview. And like I said, his backstory is absolutely fascinating. And he's a really cool guy. And that's why he's one of my favorite players in Bengals history. But today, he actually played like a really good player, which is not normal for him. But I mean, he got two tackles, which whatever. But he also sacked Andy Dalton, which I'm sure made him thrilled because he's, that's that's his ex-quarterback, and people love playing like that against former teammates. But he got credited with the sack. He got credit for 2 tackles for loss. So not only did he get that sack, but he also had another play where he stopped, I believe it was Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. And when the way the defense was playing early on in the game, it was actually really exciting. And Marcus Hunt was a big part of that. So a big part of why it looked like we might have a chance to maybe come back and make something of this game, even though we let 17 points go right the hell away due to 3 fumbles in a row. A big part of that was because the defense was playing halfway decently. And a big part of that was because Marcus Hunt was making the kind of impact that he almost never makes. So shout out to you, Marcus Hunt. Thomas, who would you say was your underrated player?
Oh, isn't it obvious? It got to be Austin Seibert. Austin Seibert. Yes, that's right.
Oh my God. Dude, okay, so first of all, just for clarification, Austin Seibert had 1 single play the whole game.
One.
Well, okay, he also did kickoffs, so there was kickoffs, but he had an extra point and he made the extra point. But I am so really? You don't understand how happy I was when I read this movie before the game started. I was so freaking happy, man, that Randy Bullock and Michael Jordan were inactive for today's game. And neither of them were inactive because of injury. They were both just inactive because they suck and go away. That's why they were inactive. We had Xavier Suafilo and Quentin Spain starting at guard, which is what we should have had starting as long as we had these dudes. And we had Austin Seibert starting over Randy Bullock, which, I mean, he did struggle with that extra point. So a lot of Bengals fans are like, what's going on? Like, is this guy really going to be any better than Randy Bullock? He almost missed the 1 extra point that was his one job all game. But he didn't. And you know what? It can't be worse than Randy Bullock. And if it is, it can't be that much worse because Randy Bullock has lost us like 3 or 4 games this year just by himself. Before Joe Burrow got hurt, Randy Bullock was like almost personally responsible for probably about 3 of those losses. And so, I mean, it's like, Austin Seibert might potentially be like statistically worse than Randy Bullock. That is a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen, but it is a possibility that Austin Seibert could statistically end up being worse than Randy Bullock. But you can't end up being functionally worse because Randy Bullock lost us 3 games early on when it was still a possibility that we were going to do something this year. So you know what? I don't care if Austin Seibert sucks. I just want to see what maybe can be done, and I want Randy Bullock to face the music for how awful he has played and for those phantom calf cramps that he had at the end of the Los Angeles Chargers game, man. Like, I know Austin Seibert is not the savior, the greatest kicker of all time, but God, he's got to be better than Randy Bullock.
Dude, what's his name? I think Austin Seibert only missed like two or three kicks his whole entire career. Like he was the biggest for Cleveland last year.
The biggest thing, like, and the reason that
he didn't miss a single extra point last year
is because of the specific kicks that he missed. Because
he only missed like 2 picks that one game. It was one game. Like, he's fine. He's
this year, yeah. But I think that had to do with like having a history or like he had a really bad miss the previous year or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he came out struggling. So I don't know.
I mean, Cody
I
Parkey's
agree
fine.
with you.
Cody
I
Parkey's doing
think
his thing. So I can't.
I thought
He's-
I thought cutting him was a bad move by the Browns, and hopefully it benefits the Bengals. But I mean, you never know. It could bite us in the ass.
No, he's fine.
Let's go ahead and move on to the state of the AFC North. Once again, there was almost kind of a weird. The only reason we're recording this podcast right now, with very few things having actually happened so far, is because we're live streaming tomorrow, and we're not going to do a live stream and a podcast in the same night. We'll never get the podcast.
Or we live streamed yesterday.
Do what?
I said, or we live streamed yesterday, depending on where you're watching this.
Well, yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
but as far as the time of recording of this podcast, that's the order of operations that's going on here. And so, if we were going to get a podcast out at all, then it was going to have to be done tonight. So, if you're confused as to why this is such a weird, choppy, disjointed episode, that's why we figured it'd be better to get some content out than no content at all.
Greetings from the future. Did the Browns win yet? Was I excited or was I sad? No, wait, hold on. We're in the past. But what's up, future self? Am I excited right now while watching this, or am I sad? Let me know in the comments.
Can I talk to my future self? Are the Bengals ever going to figure it out? Like, do we ever get out of this rut? Because I mean, I know eventually we gotta, but like I saw the Browns go through like more than a decade of like awfulness, and I'm just hoping that we don't end up like that.
Wait, hold up. How far in the future are we giving ourselves shout outs?
Oh, I don't know. I was just talking to some future me and some because if you can talk to a future you,
I was talking like 3 days future.
Like why does it have to be a specific
like, okay.
point in time?
All right, so okay, for future me who may watch this in like a year, are we famous yet?
I don't think so.
That's my first question. That's the first question. Second question, did the Browns? No, I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna jinx it. I am not gonna jinx it.
You're gonna ask about the Super Bowl?
Don't even guess. Don't even guess. Don't even guess.
You know what?
Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
As far as the
No.
podcast and the future, like being famous in a year, my thought process with this podcast is it's probably going to take like 4 or 5 years to get to the point. Because I don't even think I don't even know how many people even watch it right now. Like for the most part, it kind of feels like just kind of talking into like the ether. I'm sure like 1 or 2 people kind of listen, but I don't even know how many people listen all the way through.
What's gonna happen is we're gonna
by the way,
go back and watch the episode.
If you're listening to me saying this right now, please leave a comment and tell me how wrong and dumb I am. It'll make my day. I promise you.
Oh, I can't wait to the future. I can't wait for the future to see. Just go back to this video.
But my thought process has always been like, in like 4 or 5 years, people might be paying attention to this, and I just want to. I want to put out good quality content now, so that in 4 or 5 years, when people are actually paying attention to us, then there's Then at that point they can go back and look and be like, this is where they came from, and then we don't have content to be like that just looks half-assed,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to pay attention to us right now. At least a large number of people are going to pay attention to us right now. But yeah, I do think that in the future at some point, if we keep putting out content like this and we keep we keep being interesting enough for somebody who came on the podcast one time said that they do listen to at least portions of this podcast and they find themselves interacting with us and like kind of dialoguing with us as we talk. That's all I want, man. I just want people to be interested in what we're doing and what we're saying. And I don't know how many people are interested right now, but I feel like in like 4 or 5 years, we could build up a pretty good following with what we're doing, because everything that we're saying is genuine. I'm bringing you the real me. Thomas is bringing you the real him. We're not playing characters here. We're not trying to say things because we think that it's going to make us sound smart or that it's going to make people like it's going to get us like YouTube ratings or anything like that. We're not saying this stuff for views and clicks. This is genuinely me. This is genuinely Thomas. This is what we genuinely think. And when we're wrong, we suck it up and admit it. And when we're right, we brag about it.
Yep. And I was right. I was right a few times. I was wrong a lot of times. And y'all gonna hear that on our prediction page, our prediction video coming right up.
Well, you know what? We will talk about the predictions video in a pretty significant capacity. And we won't talk about it too much right now, but just be aware that we've got a very close. There's only 2 games left, I believe, which is the game that's currently being played in the Browns-Ravens game, both of which we picked the same teams. So it's the end result is not really going to change, but we both did about the same this week as far as predictions go. I think you did slightly better than me, but only slightly.
Awesome. I love Slightly.
I
better. And the Bills are driving again.
I am looking forward to the day that I finally beat you on even one individual week. I don't think it's happened yet.
Damn, I didn't realize.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But
why are the Bills just cutting through the Pittsburgh Steelers defense like it's cheese?
Because, Thomas, and you know what? This is a great way to transition to the state of the AFC North, which I tried to transition to earlier and I got off track. So first of all, nothing to really talk about with the Browns and the Ravens, as we kind of discussed earlier. So the entire state of the AFC North this week is going to be focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers, partially because we already talked about the Bengals. And the Bengals are irrelevant to the state of the AFC North because we're 2-10-1 right now. Like the Bengals are unimportant. Nobody cares about the Bengals. The Steelers, however, are this wonderful, amazing team with all these wins, and they are getting smacked 23-7 right now. All right, this is not a good. It's a fine football team, sure, but this is not a dominant football team. Everybody's like, "Oh, the Steelers are undefeated up against some of the worst competition I have seen." Like one of the easiest stretch, 11 stretches of games I've ever seen from an NFL team in my entire life. They're getting exposed right now by the Buffalo Bills after getting exposed by the Washington football team last week. So you know what?
Oh, they got the Colts next week too.
And fuck you, all you people who bought into these fake ass Steelers.
They got the Colts next week too. Ooh.
Yeah.
They got the Colts next week.
And
then they get Brandon Allen in 2 weeks.
Don't write the Cleveland Browns off as AFC North champions just yet. That's all.
You said, by the way, you said it. You said it first. You were the first person I heard say it. And I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I was like, I had looked at you, Chris, like, oh, really? Like, you were the first person you said, I think the Browns are going to win the AFC North. We can bring up the tape. We're going to run the tape. You said it. And if
I remember
they win,
your reaction too. That was funny.
if they win AFC North, bruh, like, 3 games in 12 days, yeah, I understand that. But they're about to have a week to prepare for the Colts. If they lose to the Colts next week, if they lose to the Bengals after they lose, and they go on a 3-game losing streak, oh boy. Watch out for America's new team, the Cleveland Browns. Watch out for that. Man, there's still a lot of game left. There's still a whole 4th quarter left. They're only down by what? 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Watch out for this Pittsburgh Steelers first-round playoff exit. I'm calling it now because they are going to lose not just this game, but they're probably going to lose. They're probably going to lose at least one more game after this, and maybe even 2. If they lose to the Colts, then I'm calling it right now that the Browns are going to beat them in the final week, and the Browns are going to win this division. I still think the Browns are going to beat them in Week 17, but either way, the Steelers are going to lose this game. They're going to lose one more game this year. So in my opinion, their ceiling is 13-3, and they are going to miss out on a playoff bye because the Kansas City Chiefs are fucking unstoppable. Unless
crazy scenario, crazy ass scenario, right? They get those vaccines out. Then the vaccines are out on mass capacity. They're allowed to have full stadiums again in Ohio. And then the Browns play the Steelers in a packed stadium downtown Cleveland. Browns win the division in front of 69,000 screaming fans.
Nice.
That would be the greatest thing to happen to start off 2021.
So
that would be the greatest thing to happen.
I think
Let me not jinx it.
I think that's a good
right
place
now.
to. I think that's a good place to leave this.
This got me going.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about to get interesting.
Yeah.
It's about to get interesting.
I think
Yes,
it's a good
it
place.
is.
I think it's a good place to finish up this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. I know this one was a little bit of a shorter one. Actually, I don't know that. I'm not sure what the final count on this, but this one's probably a little bit of a shorter one because we literally only had the Bengals to talk about and 3/4 of the Steelers game to talk about. But thanks for listening. You can find us on YouTube, the Battle of Ohio podcast. You can also find us on. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/The Phelps, and Twitter at Kyle Phelps 92. You can find Thomas at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram, and YouTube Blowdown page. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, subscribe. Commenting is the most recommended of all those things because it helps us engage with you guys. It helps us talk about what we're doing and maybe build a little bit more about what we're doing. And maybe we can even have you on a podcast and you can make your impression on this show that, as I said earlier, in 4 or 5 years, people are actually going to be paying attention to. People are going to start going back and looking at these first couple episodes. They're going to be like, oh, look at this person who appeared on the Battle of Ohio podcast. And your name is going to be up in lights and famous. I guarantee it. Like Joe Namath. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and hoo day.
Go Browns. Still suck.